Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer number LB4350-400-640 4x3 3/4 single acting full mortise spring hinge, residential weight, lube bearing, steel base, oil rub bronze hinge. This is a single acting spring hinge from Bommer, but a specific one meant to be used in conjunction with Peachtree manufactured doors and frames. And what that means particularly is the unusual width and hole pattern and size and corners. Let's dissect the part number. First of all, LB stands for lube bearing, which is a maintenance-free sort of bearing construction from Bommer. 4350 is Bommer's part number specifically to mean that this hinge is for Peachtree brand doors and frames. That is specifically meant as a confluence of the pattern of the holes for the screws. And speaking of that, there is a link below this video to the template which shows everything important dimensionally about it. It also is a reference to the leaf thickness, which is 96 thousandths of an inch. Okay, that's typical for residential. It also means that it is square corner, is required by Peachtree doors. Okay. Also, what that means is the size. This is, in getting to the next part of this hinge, it's a 4-inch hinge. That's what the 400 means. It's a 4-inch tall hinge, but the 4350 part for Peachtree means that it's 3 3/4 wide. Okay. And the 640 means a couple of things. It means that it's a steel base hinge, as that magnet shows, and it's oil rub bronze finish. Okay, or what's referred to as a 640 finish. Okay, now it's a single acting spring hinge, as you can see, and this is going to be used in residential applications where the client either wants or requires, or both, a self-closing status to their door. You could have a fire-rated door, I suppose, between a home and an attached garage, and that door is typically fire-rated like 20-minute, which means it needs to be self-closing. Or the client could just have an exterior patio door and they want it to close after them once they've gone through the door. There is, back to that template, you can see everything important dimensionally about the hinge, specifically where the screws are located. And by all means, refer to that prior to ordering the hinge to make sure that you've got the right hinge for your application. Although the 3 3/4 width is kind of a giveaway for narrowing it down significantly to be a Peachtree style door hinge that you would require. There is also a link to the installation instructions and to the certification and hinge guide down below, which gives a lot of good, useful information. So, and much of that is just copied into the extended description, but let's go over it now. First of all, you can see that you've got 8 screw holes here, and you're going to get screws in a complementary finish, all wood and all machine screws, and it's hard to see that, I realize. Just wood screws, machine screws. Okay. There is also a guide in terms of how many spring hinges you should have. If you've got doors that are up to 85 pounds, 2 spring hinges is what's recommended. And if you've got doors up to 110 pounds, then they want 3 spring hinges. Now, I'm a fan of all spring hinges, or more than what's recommended, for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, they're really not that expensive when compared to regular hinges. Second of all, you will notice, and really primarily, you will notice a greater amount of success in the door actually closing when you've got enough spring power helping do the job. Here's what I mean. You could have a door that is 50 pounds and you put 1 spring hinge. You use that chart and you determine 1 spring hinge is what's required. What you find is that, well, the door, when you open it, will get started to close. Very rarely is the door going to have enough residual stored energy in the spring to get it to actually overcome the latch and then latch securely shut. Conversely, if you've got something that's a 2-spring hinge, and it's still not operating correctly because the door is heavier than it really ought to be for spring hinges, you'll find that you'll get the door to start to close. Or what you'll end up having to do if you don't have enough spring power is set the tension on the spring so high, and we'll go over that in a moment, you have to get the door moving very quickly through the closing cycle, which just to overcome the air pressure and the resistance of the latch bolt when it strikes the frame to get it to latch, you'll find that the door slams. I have found that when I've got all spring hinges, I can be conservative in terms of how much spring power I assign to that top hinge, which is really where all the work is being done, or the majority of it, and share that with the other spring hinges, such that I don't have to get the door moving real quick and slamming just to get it moving fast enough, but that there is enough, like torque, as in a tugboat, doesn't go very fast but can pull a lot of weight, so that you've got enough torque left in just the last 10 degrees to get it to close and latch, which if it's a fire door, that's critical. Not critical, it's required. It's utterly necessary that the door actually latch. A slamming door is bad for everything. The door, the hardware, the wall, the frame, and a door that does not latch when it ought to is worse. So, while you can certainly mix spring hinges with the standard hinges that you already have from Peachtree, you can add spring hinges to your existing and remove existing. The axis of pivoting is compatible. I find that you'll have greater success when you've got enough power on reserve, so to speak, to get the job done without having to set the tension too significantly high on the springs. Now let's go over that. You're also going to get with this, and if there's any questions on any of that, please feel free to reach out to me. You're going to get a tension rod, which is just a piece of steel, and then you're going to get a tension pin. That silver pin right there. So with the tension collar pointed up, you would insert the tension rod into one of the holes and turn it clockwise. And when you do that, you reveal additional new holes. And it's into one of those new holes that you set the tension. You can do that, this is non-handed. You can set it up or down depending on the hand of the door because this hinge is not symmetrical. But as a reference point, when the tension collar is pointed up, it's clockwise. So if it's this way, it's counterclockwise. Bommer recommends no more than 3 holes that you ratchet up, so to speak, with the spring tension pin. And if you get too many, you run the risk of snapping the spring, which is hinge is irreparable, which never really happens. I don't have failures of spring hinges. However, if you're doing that, then you need more spring hinges is the bottom line. Spring hinges are also very nice because you will have change of seasons, let's say, change of air pressure. You might have a situation by which a door in the rear of an apartment building is left open during the summer, and then you've got a changing air condition with air flowing through, and you might have a slamming sort of situation. So spring hinges can be maintained season to season to a certain extent, but nonetheless it is something that is a useful sort of item to have when you require a self-closing operation to a door, if a hydraulic closer is not otherwise something that is being considered. There's also a video below this video. There's another video which is just a video to help determine whether or not the LB4350 is appropriate for you. So Bommer makes this hinge in several different finishes, and of course many different patterns outside of the Peachtree sort of layout. The last thing I'd like to point out to you is the Bommer logo that's on the hinge right there, and right above it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer, number LB4350-400-640 single acting spring hinge for Peachtree doors, or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.